Shri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha. Shri Sadguru Paramatmane Namaha. Sarva Maharshibhyo Namaha. The excellence of Dhyana Yoga leading to self-realization is declared. 20th Shloka. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pasyannatmani tushyati. 21st Shloka. Sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahyamatīndriyam vetti yatra chaivayam stitah chalati tattvataha. 22nd Shloka. Yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin sthito na dukkena gurunapi vichalyate. Tam vidyadhuka samyoga viyogam yoga sanjitam sa nischayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa. Substance. Where the mind rests restrained by the practice of yoga, and where the self, seeing the self, is delighted in the self, and where established the yogi knows that bliss which transcends the senses, which is understandable by the purified intellect only, and from the experience of the self does not even move, possessing which he does not think any other gain greater than that, in which established he is not shaken even by great sorrow, that should be known by the term yoga, and that yogi who is free from sorrow should be attained by the undesponding and determined mind. Commentary. These four verses should be taken together. The excellence of Dhyana Yoga, by which union with self is attained and Atmic state is experienced, is explained here. When the mind merges in Atma, man experiences supreme peace and bliss. That is the goal of life. But the perfectly controlled mind only can go near Atma and merge in it. The mind should be purified and withdrawn from the sense objects. How to purify and control the mind? By the practice of yoga. It should be controlled, just as the ordinary man wastes his life in worldly pursuits, Vishya Seva. The wise man spends his life usefully in Yoga Seva. So let Vishya Seva be transformed into Yoga Seva, and let man thus attain the highest. By the practice of yoga, the seeker pursues Atma. Atma is not a theoretical proposition to be comprehended by vain logic and argument. It is the reality which can be seen, that is, brought into one's own consciousness. The idea is that Atma is not like a material object which is seen with the eyes, and yet it can be known by direct experience. Seeing means experience. Nothing else can reveal the self except the purified mind. Where is this Atma? The Lord. Atma is in one's own self. The searchlight of the mind should be focused on one's own heart, because Atma, the Lord, is there. He is nearest to us, nearer than anything else, external or internal. We are in Him and He is in us. This idea should give us invincible strength to our sadhana. What is it that one gains by unveiling Atma in himself? He comes to possess supreme joy. Having tired himself out by seeking for petty pleasures here and there, he rests himself in his own self, and then he finds the treasure for which he has been searching everywhere. What is the nature of the joy felt in Atma? It is infinite and transcendental. It is to be comprehended by the purified intellect. When the intellect is purified, it discards its enveloping ignorance and is transformed into the self. The bliss of the self is experienced directly. It can never be felt by those whose minds are externalized by contact with sense objects. How can intellect comprehend the Atmic Ananda? Through the intellect is also, though the intellect is also an organ of the mind, yet when it attains perfect purity, it discards its material form and assumes the form of Brahman. It is just like a salt doll merging in the sea. When the salt doll touches the sea, does it retain the former shape? No. Similarly, the intellect, when it is purified, becomes that. There is no one who does not possess the intellect. Only it is not pure. It is deluded by avidya and many impure vasanas inher- inherit in it. What the seeker has to do is to wash it, clean it, and make it sharp and bright, so that it can perceive the reality as it is. The bliss of the self is infinite, achantikam, because it is unlike any other joy derived from worldly objects through the senses. The seeker should learn not to hanker after wretched short lived pleasures. Having once experienced the Atmic Ananda, never again does man move away from it. True, does the bee drinking honey from the full blown lotus leaves it and go away to some other withered flower? When a man possesses the real thing, be it a jewel or a flower, does he hanker after its image in a photograph or a picture? If he does so, it only means that he is not in possession of the real thing. When a man thinks of dream pleasures, it only shows that he is not fully awakened from sleep. Having attained the self state, the sage does not think of obtaining any other thing in this world or in any other. Even the position of Indra is nothing to him, not to speak of all the wealth, position, and power of this world. Worldly things are momentary, and even if they are permanent, the human body with which they are to be enjoyed is itself subject to death at any moment. Let people cultivate faith in the Lord's teaching and stop begging for foolish pleasures, which they have had through innumerable births, which are repeating themselves endlessly without their being aware of it. How many times in previous births one had wife and children? How many times was he on the crest of the river wave of success? And how many times was he plunged in the depths of despair? These things have come to beings innumerable times, but they are not able to recollect them. They have been here millions of times and gone through the endless series of births and deaths. Knowing this, does any man thirst and hunger for insipid things? No. There is only one thing that man should attain, and that is the supreme reality. The sage who has reached the plane of Atma is not moved ever by the greatest disaster. We see people who are upset even by the slightest inconvenience or discomfort. There is the constant fear of losing the body, fear of poverty, fear of shame and disgrace, and a host of subtle fears which cause misery to man, however highly placed and powerful he may be. The sage alone is free from fear because he has seen and known the imperishable reality. Nothing can throw him off his balance. He will face the worst form of disease, dishonor, death without the least trace of physical or mental disturbance. He is immovable, established in the self. There is no other way by which the ills and evils of life should be overcome. Who can attain this self state? It is attained by him who is undespondent and determined. The aspirant should not be deterred by any obstacle or difficulty on the spiritual path. He should have supreme self reliance. I will attain that, whatever may happen. Thus should he think always. Despondency, timidity, and diffidence, these feelings should not be allowed to weaken the mind. Whatever may be the obstacles in sadhana, the aspirant should not give up hope. The power of Maya is infinite, and yet for the determined self who has obtained the grace of the Guru and the Lord, nothing is impossible. Question: by what is the mind sustained? Answer: by the practice of yoga, yoga seva. Question: which mind is merged in Atma? Answer: the mind withdrawn from the senses and purified. Question: by what is Atma perceived? Answer: by the purified mind and intellect. Question: where? Answer: in one's own self. Question: what is the fruit of knowing Atma? Answer: supreme bliss, moksha. Question: what is the nature of Atmananda? Answer: it is infinite and it transcends the senses. Question: if it transcends the senses, how to know it? Answer: by the purified mind. Buddhigrahyam. Question: what will the self realized man do? Answer: he does not move away from it. Question: what is the highest good for man? Answer: the possession of Atma, Atma Prapti. Question: what is the sign of self realization? Answer: he is not affected even by the greatest sorrow. Question: so, what is the way to overcome sorrow? Answer: attainment of Atma. Question: what is that Atmic state? Answer: it has not the slightest touch of sorrow. Question: how can man attain it? Answer: by the indespondent and determined mind.